It's your boy Daniel, LionsDen Evans, and the next episode starts right now.
May I introduce myself?
Welcome to the pride.
Welcome to the pride.
See the fire in my eyes, yeah. Brothers need to stick together. As a team, we can make it wherever. Just tell me how you feel.
Yeah.
Just tell me if it's real.
Hey. What a time, what a time. What a time for a black man to be alive. Living in the struggle while trying to keep our composure. Killing each other while trying to look for that exposure. We all just want to make it, we should do it as a team. Build each other up and they can't even say a thing. Me and all my brothers just stuck together like glue. It's us against the world and you know what we finna do. Woo! Pop a bottle, we in here for celebration. We just wanna be the leaders that's pushing the generation. Take a seat and find your zone for the topic of conversation. Find a way for a positive revelation. Now this really ain't the time to be thinking about yourself, cause we just a bunch of hustlers that's trying to give out some help. We turn the cubs into lions inside of the den. Come and join the brotherhood if you really just wanna win. Hey.
As always, this is an unrehearsed, unscripted show, and today we have Miss Regina Harrell on the show. Ma'am, welcome to Inside the Den. How you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, like I told you before, this is groundbreaking. Being able to introduce for the first time on the show a whole new audience of female listeners and female watchers. So before we get started, just give it a little background of who you are and give me a background of how we got here right now.
I would say I am known to be the lady of many hats. I'm an author, magazine publisher, I'm a teacher at heart, I'm a radio personality. I love to do a lot of events, so it's a lot of things that I actually do, and I actually try to teach along the way.
That's awesome. So how did you get started with all these different, different adventures and different genres of what you do? How did you get, like, what was it when you just woke up and like, how did all that happen?
Actually, it's natural, and I knew growing up I was always going to be a writer. Started at the age of 13.
Oh, wow.
So, and I used to do plays and stuff too. So what I used to do was listen to my mom have conversation. I used to write it down in the form of a play.
Oh, so you listen to your mama?
Yes.
On the phone talking to her friends?
She would either talk to her friend or she would talk to my brother, and I would write it in the form of a play.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And you was named after your mom when she was
I am.
So you cut from the same cloth.
Mm-hmm. But I always say I'm the good Regina. She's the
Also,
big
the good
Regina.
side, bad side, huh? Wow. So how did your mom feel knowing that she inspired you to do this? Like, what was her thought process during you listening to her conversations and writing it down? Did you get in trouble about that?
But no, because even as a child, she, because I told myself I was going to be a lawyer. And she was like, nah, you ain't going to be no lawyer. And I said, yes, I am. I'm going to be a lawyer. And she said, you can't win arguments. You can't be a lawyer, but you're going to be a teacher. So she always knew that I had creative, I was very creative, even as a child. So she already knew that.
So did you go to law school?
No.
So like, mama was right, huh?
Of course
Mama
not.
was right.
Of course not. But she knew, and even when I was at school, she used to find my little journals and she used to read them. So she always knew that I was a writer.
Wow. Wow. And so how did that make you feel getting the approval from your mom at that age that you can be a successful writer? How did it make you feel at that time?
Like the queen. The queen of everything that because she always told us, always be the best in whatever you do.
Yeah.
So even, I took the concept of if I'm giving a mop, you better work that mop like this, so you better mop that floor like this, the best in the world, and leave a mark pretty much.
Mhm.
So whatever you do, leave a mark.
One of the things that Martin Luther King said in one of his speeches was, if you are a street sweeper, you ought to sweep the street so well that on your tombstone they should say, here lies the greatest street sweeper who swept this job well. So whether you are a sanitation expert slash janitor, or you a street sweeper, a mopper, or whatever you call it, do that with excellence, because somebody is always watching. And the
Right.
Bible says, do things as unto the Lord. So whether it's small or big, you know, don't despise small beginnings, because it might be a mop today, but it might be a corporation tomorrow.
That part.
So,
That part. And it also expresses the fact that whatever you do, whenever you leave a mark, if you miss a day or you absent, they know. They know that your touch is missing.
yeah.
So everything I do, I leave that mark.
That's awesome. So you got so many different accolades, I don't even know where to start, but let's just start off talking about this book. Don't break down, break through. Talk about this book.
Well, this book actually, the title was given to me like a few years before I wrote the book. Because when I received the title, I was like, God, I ain't going through nothing like no book like that. You know, because to me, my life is perfect. I had a perfect marriage, perfect children, perfect job. You know, we had a house, a car, we had everything. It was great. So I said, so why should I write a book? It's called Don't Break Down, Break Through. I ain't going through that. And that's why I messed up it. And then life happened. So, marriage failing, children acting crazy, lost job, health going crazy. So, they always say that you are the first partaker of the ministry.
You are.
And that's what happened. So once he gave me that, I had a reason to put a testimony in here. And it's not even necessarily my testimony, which is words given for the ones who actually going through those things and how to get out of it. Like they don't have to stay there in the hope, they can get out. So that's where this book was birthed from.
Don't break down, break through. So how old is this book?
This book actually, I started this book in 2013. I had an idea of how to put it together, but I didn't actually sit down, write it, and publish it until 2014. So it was like one of those months where I couldn't sleep until this book was written. So once I written the book, he was full.
That's crazy, because, you know, God will sometimes, wear you out until you able to really follow through on what he has you doing. And sometimes we go through seasons in life, we have to repeat that same season because we missing something. It's a lesson that needs to be learned. I posted on Facebook a couple weeks ago, said that if you're in a desolate place, pay attention, because there's a lesson that you need to be learning, and you're not going to leave that season until you have gotten every lesson out of that season before God changes the season. So that's awesome. So the overall message of the book, what's the overall message?
The overall message is no matter what comes your way, how hard it may hit, you still here. He just, if he bring us to it, he's gonna bring us through it. So he's not gonna put no more on us than we can bear. So that's why they said, that's why this book is called Don't Break Down, Break Through. Because if he's gonna bring us to this storm, you best believe we come out of this storm. We're gonna come out of it. Because he shows us that rainbow, which is that promise, and then you see that sun. It's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So it's not gonna be dark always. So that's what this book is about.
And so you use this book as a form of ministry. Okay. Talk to us about your ministry.
Pretty much, my ministry, I would say, is God-given. I don't have papers. But if God placed a ministry in you, he gives you the knowledge to do it, and he gives you the skills to do it. So this is nothing that man can put in you or make you take a test for. He already put in you. It's up to us to utilize what he put inside of us. And that's why we are able to serve our purpose.
Awesome. So where can the book be found? Go ahead and this is your camera right here.
You actually find it in lulu.com, LULU.com, and look for Regina Harrell, REGINA and look for Don't Break Down, Breakthrough. I had to say it like that because it's another book up there. So if you find same title, but my ... is what makes mine different.
Hold it up so they can see. So don't break down, ... breakthrough. No dots. So that's awesome. So you all can pick up a copy of Don't Break Down, ... breakthrough on Lulu.com. That's awesome. And so the second thing we're going to talk about is she actually has her own magazine, and we're going to talk about Embrace magazine.
Yeah, Embrace. And actually, this stemmed off my radio show, Embrace Life.
Okay.
So I just took the E off at apostrophe. But it's called Embrace, and this magazine is actually for self-care. And I feel like sometimes we don't do that enough because we do so much and we work for other people, work for, do other things for other people. We don't take care of ourselves. So sometimes we forget the important things in life is our health, and like we talked about before, the life insurance. So stuff like this is stuff that we need to take care of. So this book is actually for testimonies of how people got out of their situation and also how to take better care of themselves so they would be, here longer on earth.
So what inspired you to do the magazine? You got the book, you got the talk show. What inspired you to do the magazine?
The magazine, this is my favorite because it allows me to be, to allow that creative monster in me to come out. This is my therapy because I just like to create stuff. So this is what I couldn't wait to get a chance to even make my own magazine. Because even growing up, I used to look at all the magazines in the doctor's office. I also used to go to the pharmacy and read all the cards. It's crazy. But anything that had words to it that would inspire me, I had always wanted to be an inspiration for somebody else. So not only am I'm becoming that inspirational piece, but also creative piece. So that's why I could make it unique.
So how empowering and how inspiring is it that you're able to impact people's lives with book, magazine, radio show? Like, give me some insight on how that makes you feel.
I would say this, it's wonderful to be able to just walk in the street and be like, hey, I know you, or I heard your voice before. And, I watched the show, and oh my God, it just changed me. And I was like, really? So, and I believe in pushing relationships, no matter if it's family, no matter if it's love, or whatever type of relationship that you have, because it's not pushed enough. So when it comes to families, I don't like to see broken families, So, I believe in pushing marriages, because they don't talk about marriage anymore. And kids, me growing up, we always dream of putting that veil on and walking down the aisle. These kids are not talking about that now. They're talking about other stuff, getting that bag. But they're not talking about establishing relationships. So I use these formats to push relationships, even with yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, how can anybody else love you?
That's true.
So this is my way of pushing relationships, whether it's with yourself or with others.
That's awesome. You ever thought about getting a doctorate degree in therapy and then become a counselor?
I thought about that. I did. I thought about that one time, but I also asked God to be able to counsel people without a license, and He gave me my platform.
Also, you get certified to be a life coach. I actually, been doing this type of work for all my life unofficially, and so I'm like, so what is separating me from actually being able to really like do this for real? And so one of my goals in life is to be the number one motivational speaker in the world. So Eric Thomas, I gotta take his spot. So in order to be number one in that area, you have to be on a certain path. And the path has led me to become a life coach. Like the certification, people want to know, are you certified to do what you're doing? You don't need a certification, but you know, some people just want to see that paperwork and say.
But I have online, I have an online certification for life coach.
Yeah, and so the idea behind it was to get on the path that leads me to becoming the number one motivational speaker. So that's the reason for the show, the talk show. That's the reason for me doing the life coaching. The reason for me doing the movies, because you know you gotta have some credibility. People say, "Oh, that's the guy in that movie." They want to see. So, so I have to be uncomfortable with being. I have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So I'm not comfortable being the public. I am a bona fide, certified introvert. I'm a loner. I'm a lone wolf. I am a.
Get out of here.
It's like that swan. You see the swan on top of the water. You see he's floating, but underneath the water, his feet moving 1,000 miles. I'm gonna tell you, when I was a kid coming up, I used to have a stuttering problem, and I used to have a fear of public speaking, like reading out loud in front of the class. I get stuck on a word and I can't get off of it, and then everybody laughing at me and everything. So I made a point to keep my mouth shut. Like when people start janking on it, I'm not in it. I ain't allowed to go somewhere and disappear because I know when they start talking about me, I ain't got no kind of defense. I was a preacher's kid, so I wasn't allowed to talk about people. I had to love them. And you know, coming up, my daddy told me to turn the other cheek. I remember I was getting bullied at school. Y'all heard this story already on last season, but I was getting bullied at school. And this dude hit me in my jaw. And I remember my daddy's words in my mind, "Don't fight, turn the other cheek." And I turned the other cheek and got hit on my other cheek. Smashed me again. So I'm standing there confused, like I'm getting like bullied. I'm trying to be a humble kid, and I'm just getting beat up. And so I avoided confrontation at all costs. Didn't want to do no public speaking. Didn't want to read out loud in front of the class. So every opportunity I had to like not talk, I would take that opportunity. And so I'm only able to do what I'm doing now out of necessity. Because I know that my job requires me to be a people's person. So it looks like I'm the life of the party. But internally, I got so much self-esteem issues, and I got so much inconsistencies, and so much like subconsciously thinking about, do I look, am I fat? Do I look fat on camera? Is my gap too big? Are my teeth too yellow? Is my beard lined up right? Is the color? It's so much that go on inside the mind. So it almost feels like, you know, I don't like people staring at me. But like I said, for out of necessity, you got to kind of get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because eventually this is going to be the thing that pays all my bills. I want to get to a place where I do, you know, public speaking and being a motivational speaker full time. And so I have to get some. I have to start somewhere.
Right.
So that's the reason for all this. But being able to see your work pay off, and to see your work pay you back, and then to be able to have your mom able to travel with you and go do different things. Mom is behind the camera in the background, y'all. She's right behind this camera right here. Y'all can't see her, but she looks like she's bored to death. Are you bored? You ain't bored in the house, bored in the house, bored? Bored in the house and in the house?
I'm enjoying.
Okay. So just being able to, you know, to have your mom and stuff. I know she's your ride or die. You was named after your mom. I can only imagine how it would feel to have my people, like my mom and dad, to be able to see, you know, all the things I'm doing right now. And I even said that in the movie Part of the Lion, I'm not going to play myself. I'm going to get like my nephew that looks very,
Similar to-
look like he could be my son, but it's only because his daddy is my younger brother, and he's like my quote unquote son. I have raised him and everything, and so I'm probably going to play my part in the movie for a short time. So just kind of getting everybody together, but just having an opportunity to involve your family in something.
And actually, to help create who I am was my mom. She made me very so I have like leather skin, and I used to think back then if I cried that I showed weakness. So she was like that strong part of me, because when I went into the military, I was 18 years old. So when I got there and to boot camp, I had people way bigger than me that was crying off everything that was said to them, and I'm just standing there smiling, and it was like, she crazy. But it wasn't that I was crazy. I was prepared for that.
Alligator skin.
I was prepared for that. So sometimes we have to look back at everything that we've been through in life to see what really prepared me for where I am now. And she was that main part. She was that foundation.
Yeah. Able to help you develop that toughness. So you ain't gotta be worried about a drill instructor yelling at you because mama done already done it.
Right.
I went to boot camp, I said, y'all weak. My daddy been doing this since I was 2 years old. Y'all ain't doing nothing but, y'all just singing a song to me. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's awesome to be able to have that experience. The second issue of the magazine, y'all can see, it is Grace with yours truly on the front of it. The Lion's Pride is on the front of this magazine. And like she was talking about before, being able to tell a part of a story about insurance that I actually do. Some of y'all don't know what I do full time, but I'm not just this person on this show. I actually have a real business. Some people say business. I have a real business that I do life insurance and infinite banking strategies, showing people how to become their own bank, showing people the power of retirement, because retirement is a lost cause right now. Just this year alone, retirement has lost about $7 trillion worldwide. So people don't even know they lost money until they go check their 401k and be like, oh, my money's gone. And 401k was never originally intended for retirement. It was just intended for a way to get you into the stock market and not retire. People retire on it, but it ain't connected with retirement. So I'm talking about insurance in my issue of the magazine and how we able to help the communities with just legacy building. I believe in legacy building. You know what I mean? One of the sad realities of not leaving behind a legacy. The Bible says that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children and his children's children. The oldest man in the world that ever lived was a man named Methuselah. Somebody say you're older than Methuselah. He was the oldest man. He was 973 years, something like that, old. He lived longer than Adam. And the only thing that the Bible has to say about Methuselah is that he was born, he had kids, and he died. That's it. Nothing in between his life and death that was significant, except he had kids and died. And so I don't want that to be my story. I want God to say that I squeezed him like a sponge and I got every ounce of drop of juice out of him, and I took him because I didn't have anything left for him to do, not because I got hit in a crossfire and routed because somebody out there shooting at him. You know what I'm saying? Life is so precious.
It is.
And so I was talking to my team the other day on motivational call, and I said, if you knew the day you were going to pass, if God came to you and told you that, listen, 100 days, I got to get you out of here. You only had 100 days left to live. what would you do with that time? Would you spend 99 days regretting all the stuff you could have did in your past? Or would you spend the 99 or the 100 days left impacting the world before you leave and say, I want to make sure my mark is felt when I leave, so I'm going to take these 100 days that I got left that God has given me, because he'll have to tell you the date.
Right.
So he will tell you that I give you the 100 days. How would you live your life if you only had 100 days? What would you do?
Me, what I'm doing right now, trying to, inspire people to do better, that inspire you that you don't have to stay here, because a lot of people think when they get in the bus, that's what, I'm stuck here forever. So 5 minutes of fame don't even matter. Don't let 5 minutes of your day of badness affect your whole day. So I want to continue to inspire people, continue to, help my girls understand, what they supposed to be doing, as young ladies, and how to inspire the next generation. So my thing is, I want what I have going on carry on. No, they may not be into writing books and stuff that I do, but both of them are very creative. So as long as they carry their creativity, they know they got it from mama, and then they're gonna keep on. It's gonna keep going. So my thing is with those days is just inspiring people to do the best you can while you're here, and make a mark while you're here.
And so, with that being said, another question, and it's probably going to be kind of leaning toward the same thing, but we serve an almighty God. If you knew that every shot that you shot, if you knew you couldn't miss, how many more shots would you take?
If you knew that if I knew that I couldn't miss,
If you know you couldn't miss.
yes,
I mean, this is the real thing. Like, how many shots would you take if you knew you couldn't miss? If you knew you was going to hit every shot you shot, every shot you took, you knew you were going to make it. How many more shots would you take in your life if you knew you couldn't miss? What else would you do if you knew
I
that you
think
couldn't
I
miss?
would do a whole lot more, because even though I do what I do, I still have reserve.
Invest in your lifestyle today with Embrace Magazine. It's a self-care magazine that caters to your physical, mental, spiritual, and financial lifestyle. It features relationship building, self-care tips, empower building, style, and much more. Embrace Magazine will encourage you to evolve, emerge, and empower. Get your copy today. For more information, contact embrace@yahoo.com or subscribe at embrace61wixsite.com/my-site. Invest in yourself. You are worth it.
Like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready to do this yet. I think that would be the time I would step out of that comfort zone and do more.
I think that 100 days thing is like, you got 100 days left, I'm throwing everything up. I don't care what it is.
It's almost
One-handed,
like
back-handed, side-handed, twin the leg, up, down, side, I'm throwing everything. If I know I ain't got but 100 days, after this is over with, so I'm gonna throw everything up. So it's like, are you living to live or are you living to die? What is your motive in life? Are you doing things just to get by? Or like you said, are you impacting others' lives? Because once you leave this world, that's it.
And I think me and my mom, we was discussing that on the way here. I said, Mama, when you get into people pleasing, and then you forget all about you, when you pass away, you can easily be replaced. You can easily be replaced. So you need to live for you. Live for you.
Yeah.
You can also live for you and impact others, but don't forget you. And that's what we tend to do sometimes. We so busy trying to impact, others and make everybody else happy when we're suffering inside. Because after it all is said and done, when we come home, we're so beat down. we can't even, keep our eyes open half the time.
See, she all in my business, man. She done came in here and she got colors on and everything, and then she's all in my conversation. Me and my man was having the same conversation earlier about when you give so much of yourself to other people till you forget who you are, and after years of bending, after years of lowering your standards, after years of shape shifting to please other people, you realize that you done lost touch with who you are as an individual, and you spend time alone. Like, what do I enjoy in life?
What am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna do it myself.
You know what I mean? And that's just like some couples, like you talking about earlier about couples, when you in a relationship with somebody and the common goal is the children, and you don't have a real relationship or real bond. Once the job of raising the kids is over with and they have left the nest, then you're left with somebody that you don't even get along with, but you was only there for the purpose of raising the kids. And you remember that before we had these kids, we used to be fun. We used to be comedians. We used to have a good time, but now these kids have sucked every drop of fun.
So now you gotta be serious.
You gotta be serious all the time. You gotta have all the wisdom. You can't not know nothing. You gotta have all the scriptures. You gotta have all the answers. You gotta have all the Google, Siri, and Alexa answers and responses. And then you realize that, well, shoot, I forgot who I was. What do I like again? End up going to a club saying, I know why I stopped going to the club now, because I ain't never felt good in the club. And then you start going to places and feel like you're trying to find, and then they say, I find myself doing this, find myself doing that. Then eventually say, I'm finding myself because I wasn't defined by them kids in the first place.
That part.
I was a real person with a real relationship and everything. So what's next for you? I mean, what's next? What's your upcoming projects? What you got going on in the background?
Right now, I do have more books that I need to get out, and more shows. I'm currently getting ready to start working on my TV network. So that's one of the main things I want to do for next year. I want to do more events like the Women Empowerment that I had this year. It was very impactful, so people look forward to next year. So I want to be able to give those events that people look forward to going to, because they can take something home. They don't just come in and leave out the same. They can take something home. So, I always look at life as it's a full relationship. You have a relationship with God. You have a relationship with yourself. Then when you get in a relationship with other people, you have a relationship of being somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend, fiance, to marriage, to children, to being parents. And guess what? Right back to yourself. Because after that, you're going on. So I just look at everything in a relationship pattern. Like you said, what is that path? So now I'm surrounding myself with likeness of things that I want to do. Likeness of people, likeness of skills. So even if I have to volunteer, I'm in the zone on where I want to be. So if I got to take a few freebies here and there just to get to where I'm at, then that's where I'm at. So my main focus is just generate relationships with other people, see what they got going on, see how we can work together and make us better place. Because we have children, like I said, they're not even thinking about, I want to go to college and I want to get into Florida. They're not even talking like that. So now we got to get our generation back to that mentality, of doing, different stuff other than being in the street.
What's your take on college?
College, I would say this, college is not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but at the same token, it does generate a different mindset of seeing things. I've seen people go to college and become a nurse and come out a teacher. It just teaches them, okay, I got my foot with it, I don't like it, so I'm going to try something else. So I think college gives them the freedom of choice of trying different things until they say, you know what, this is what I like, this is what I'd rather do. So, like I said, some people don't go to college and find purpose.
That's an awful, huge price tag to be trying to figure
Very
something out.
costly. Very costly.
To be going there and figuring something out.
That part.
I don't personally agree with, college as the way it's, going into debt, get a degree into a field that you will have to be experienced in, and I just think, then I believe that, as far as it comes down to school, what is being taught? Is it being made up by somebody else? Are we being taught I am struggling, and I don't want to say the wrong thing. So just a kind of backstory, I was talking to people about reparations and how they deal with reparations and help, and come to the conclusion that giving black people reparations without land to cultivate, without education, is really pointless, because all they're going to do is spend money on lavish and pointless things, unless they got the line of an investor and they're But even with the free school, whose education is it? Is it black education, or is it the education that they want you to know from, like Christopher Columbus, who discovered America, or things that we don't need to be taught? We don't need to be taught other races' education. We need to be taught our education to find out where we came from as a black people, where we're going, and how we can rectify some of these generational curses. Let's teach on how to leave a legacy behind. Let's teach on the power of generational wealth. Let's teach the power of, bringing the Black Wall Street back to life. Let's teach on, how to cultivate and how to get more out of something, because when somebody gives you something, you're supposed to multiply it and make it better, not just hand it back to them the same. So going to school, you're going to pay them for education. They're going to teach you something. They give you a diploma, but you're giving them back the same thing that they gave you. They're teaching you something and you give it back to them the same. Instead of teaching you something and multiplying it and then enhancing it and saying, this is what I got from it. Make any sense?
Right, because how I see stuff right now, and it's just me, I see it as though.
Your mic went out.
Mine?
Yeah.
Over there on the thing, or by the pencils over there. Right here. By the desk, by the light, all the kitchen. The Duracell battery is in there. We'll be back after these messages. This will put that in Praise Life video in commercial. We're gonna put that in. We're gonna put that commercial in right here.
Okay.
So we got to stop. It's a good point, right? Good spot. Good stop. And we're back. No, we ain't back. We're gonna be edited so we can talk. We're gonna be edited.
Yeah,
We
okay.
still got this camera going, and we still got this camera going.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Mom? You want some water now? You sure? Still no much? No snack? You're not diabetic, right? You had your snack. You had a whole meal. I see you got that ice over there. I see you nod your head a few times. You might be fall asleep. And you had your turkey sandwich or something like that.
Whenever y'all ready, you can.
You ready? So you remember what you were saying?
Yes.
You good.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So, like I said, it's just me, maybe it's just me, but I'm starting to feel like kids are being taught in school to do bare minimum. Back then, we were pushed to do stuff. We were pushed beyond our limits because our teacher actually believed in us. See, these teachers just trying to get you in and get you out.
No child left behind.
You know? And they'll say, oh, well, you know, just give that one when we school on. And some of them do it because they just tired of you being in their classroom. And they say, you know what, go ahead and pass them. And see, that's what the kids are stuck on now. I just have to do the bare minimum. I won't have to do more than that.
So when they're underachievers in school, they become underachievers at work.
That part.
They become underachievers in their life. You know, when my kids, you know, I preach, you know, entrepreneurship at its times. And so my kids came to me when they was kids about going to college. I'm like, you better go get you a scholarship, 'cause I'm not going to pay for no college. If you go to college, you better get you a scholarship, or you better pay your own way, because I just don't believe in college in that way, because I thought about it one day, like, hey, how much do the average professor makes at a college? Think about it. What, between maybe $50,000 to $80,000 a year? But they trying to teach you how to make $1 million. If you ain't making $1 million, you making $50,000 a year, trying to educate me on how to make $1 million. Something ain't adding up.
Or being a teacher knowing that you just taught a millionaire. Make you feel some type of way, like.
Yeah, somebody went to your class, graduated, got your own business millionaire, and you still teaching this joke.
You taught them all they know.
And it's one of those things where you have to really be intentional with the school, because even after you get that degree, how long before you get a job in that field? You go to a doctor to be a doctor with 12 years of school?
Still got to fight for the position.
And when you go to be a doctor, you have to pay the student loans back. So your first 6-7 years of business is really paying back the student loans. You don't actually get a profit until like maybe down the road. So I just got a different mentality. So I just teach my kids about entrepreneurship.
But see, and that's what I want to kind of correct too, because what I meant to say is they stopped following their dreams. They will make these dreams, but because of one naysayer, they're like, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. They say I'm not good enough. But whose decision matters, yours or theirs? So that's what I talk to my kids about all the time. Whatever you want to do, I'm going to back you 100%, as long as it ain't nothing crazy. But, you know, I'm going to always be that pusher, you know. And even, and my thing is, and I think that's the life coach in me, don't tell me you want to do something, because I'm going to ride you until you do it.
Oh, yes, but
I'm going to ride you
tell me about something you want to do it, and you get mad because I'm holding you accountable. Don't tell me about it. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah, keep it to yourself.
Keep it to your doggone self. Because I just believe in accountability, and people hold me accountable, so in return, I have to hold other people accountable as well. It just makes sense. Last thing before we say goodbye, you have been such an awesome guest. And just a breath of fresh air. We've collaborated on a few things in the past, and I look forward to being able to collaborate in the future. What you got going on? I see you in a movie. I see you in a movie in my mind.
You see me in the movie?
Yes. I see you with a practice being a counselor of some sort. I don't know if you got to go to school to get it, but I see you in that capacity, and I see all of the things you do as a way to help launch all of that. So your gifts will make room for you. So be prepared for the future, because in your future, I believe that this is going to be more streamlined and being a counselor or a therapist. So it's just a thought that just came to my mind.
I received that.
Okay. Last thing, embrace life, good and bad. What does that mean to you?
Embracing everything, you know, because when we go through these seasons, you know, we always tell people, love me in all my seasons. But do you love you in your season? You know, there are times that, yes, we're doing well, but then there's a time that we're not doing so good. Do we still love ourselves in that season? Or do we say, you know what, this is a failure, or what happened to the encouraging yourself? So that's why I believe in that self-care. So when you start embracing life, you know, I'm one of the ones that say, okay, this one bad thing happened, okay, put it on my resume because this too shall pass. So I done gained that mindset of knowing that things happen for a reason. And a lot of times, a lot of stuff that's meant for our bad is going to work in our good. It's going to work in our favor in the future. So that's why I say embrace life good and bad. Because we're not going to always have those good days. But we have to embrace the bad stuff because that's what helps create who we are. That's what helps create our character. So if we don't embrace that bad, if we don't embrace this person said, oh, you will never make it, what would be in that push that make us really go out there? Because you told me I can't make it. So now I'm going to prove you wrong. So had that person not said that, we wouldn't even have that mentality to go out there and get it. So that's why I say embrace good and bad.
I tell people my story often because in order to know, who I am now, you have to know the facts. And part of the story I want to paint in this movie, Pride of the Lion, coming out 2023, Pride of the Lion, is a movie about a one man's struggle to regain his independence in society after he's been in prison. So a little bit about my story is, I was running for my calling for a long time. And I never really wanted to get into the business of servitude. Most people, they want to be served. They don't want to serve others. And just feeling like, I done always, lacked certain things in life. So I never really wanted to be in the business of service until God had to corner me, and He had to put me in a situation, and I ended up going to prison myself, and I learned a lot about myself during those times. A lot of people, they talk about my work ethic, my grind. People think that I'm in love with my job, I'm in love with work. Like I told you before, I'm an introvert. I don't like having to work. But I know that it requires me to live a certain lifestyle that I require, so I have to work. And so if I had an opportunity to go back and do it all over again, I would still benefit if God had to sit me down again for the prison. Because being in prison and being in that kind of situation, it helps shape the man who you see today. Being in a situation where you're not in control, and you have to have the patience of Job, and you have to really eat out of the hand of God, because God is just talking and He's listening, and being able to say, I give it all to God, and I'm not in control. That's where God wants us on a daily basis. And we get beside ourselves and we start thinking that we know more than Him, think that we know our life better than He knows it, and He's the one that created us. And so we get to a place where we feel like, well, I wouldn't do that again if I was you. Like, you know what, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I was able to sit down and really get some rest. I was able to hear the voice of God, and God was able to deal with me when I was in prison on a level that is hard to deal with now because of my busy life.
Right.
Sometimes God is just saying, turn down the noise in your life so I can talk to you. And for years and years and years, I had been hearing God call my name, but it was coming in a little bit static. Like that Verizon wireless guy. Can you hear me now?
No distractions.
But I remember the first night I spent in prison. I was walking the yard and just walking around looking at the barbed wire fence. I had a reality check. I can just get up out of here if I want to go home. I got to stay. And then I heard the voice of God say, can you hear me now?
Wow.
And it was the loudest thing I ever heard, and I said, yes. And He said, now let's have a conversation. Why did they have to take me through all this trouble, turmoil, being falsely accused of something, for Him to be able to hear, for me to be able to hear Him? Because He was telling me the whole time that your life is too loud. You can't hear me because you got so much going on. But if I have to, and this is one of the stories I learned when I was in prison. Sometimes God has to make you lie down in green pastures. The Bible says, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He maketh me lie down." Now the significance about that part is that in the olden days, when the shepherd would be tending to the sheep is considered a dumb animal to the point where the sheep would stand too long and they would end up dying. So the shepherd had to break the sheep's legs in order for the sheep to lay down. And sometimes when we're dealing with situations in our life, God has to make us lie down, and not just any old hood or any old pastures. Would you like to call your dress? He had to make us lie down in the green pastures. And then the next part says, "He leaded me beside the still waters." You ever try to drink water from a fast-moving stream?
A lot of clashing.
You would drown. So the water has to be still, meaning that you can still drink from the fountain of the water that he laid you down beside. So sometimes you have to be arrested to be rescued. Sometimes you got to be locked up to be set free. Sometimes it takes you going through the pit to the prison to the palace for you to ought to understand that this is where you're supposed to have been the whole time, but because you did things your way instead of doing things Yahweh. Come on, somebody. So when you start learning how to do things the way that God wants you to do things, you can avoid all these detours in life, because we just go off in the deep end, and it's just like the children of Israel. They was free, and it took them 40 years in the wilderness going in circles when they was like 5 miles from their destination. So we in our life, we trying to do things our way. We done went off a 40-year detour, and like you said, things are right here at our hand, but we had to go through all this journey to get to it because we want to do our own thing.
What's significant about pretty much what you were saying was, and this is my scenario of me. I look at the story of the lady with the issue of blood. She lived for 12 years, and you know, when you're bleeding like that, they consider to be contaminated, some everything, you're going through a whole lot of money issues. But what I love about her is she moved in silence, because it's a lot of people. She had to touch somebody just to get to Jesus, you know, so she's calling. She's calling, she's at her lowest point. She's moving. Nobody knows what's going on because everybody's up here. She's down here. So she's moving in silence to get her healing. And it was so significant how she touched the hem of his garment, and he said, "Who touched me?" Because her faith was just that live. But what I look at that whole story is, he was on his way to go heal this other young lady who people was considering deep. So in order, it's like things are done in decent and order. She came in to interrupt that because she needed the healing. Then he was able to go and raise up this other young lady. And what I take from that is, we come into God looking for this healing. And once we get healing, now that, you know, he can raise us up because we are restored. Because we have been going through this pain all these years. So sometimes instead of telling people, I got to do this and I got to do that, sometimes we have to move in silence. And once God recognizes, oh, okay, they're real about what they're trying to do in their life, then we go ahead and restore them. That's how I look at my whole life situation, is that I'm this lady who's trying to get to that healing. And once I got my healing, God was able to restore me. And now I can hear him. There's no distractions. So these people, they up here, it's a whole bunch of distractions, but down here it won't. So she had to crawl down to her lowest point to get that healing so she can be restored.
And also, another significant thing about that story is the fact that she didn't have to touch him. She just touched his feet. So let's get the script. Jesus cursed a fig tree because the fig tree did not have figs on the tree because the fig season was not in play. So he was hungry, he wanted some figs, he went to a fig tree that was out of season, and because that tree didn't have any fruit on it, he cursed it. The Bible says you gotta be ready in season and out of season. So the point of this to me is, how many people have God sent to touch you, but because you wasn't in season, they couldn't get anything from you?
That's it.
So we have to look at it from another point of view. She wanted to touch him, but she touched him and she was made whole because of faith. But just like that fig tree, if somebody need a word from you and they can't get it because you're not in season, then you're in jeopardy of being cursed because you're not in the right season. You have to be ready in season and out of season. So staying connected to the right people, it was a connection issue. I couldn't hear God because the connection was not clear. I had all this other stuff in my life going on and he couldn't get a clear signal through. So he had to put me in a position where silence, isolation. You know what I mean? And then when that signal came through, he was like, "Can you hear me now?" I'm like, "How long you been calling me? I've been calling you here." But when I went in prison, God had a greater purpose. I wasn't just in prison just to be in prison. The Bible talks about the 99 sheep. You leave the 99 sheep to go after that one lost soul. So here's what happened to me, Mom. I was in prison. I met this guy when I was in prison, dealing with homosexuality in prison, punks. They associate you with the people you hang out with. Even though I had just got there on a short bid, this guy had been there, he had a 20-year bid to do. And because he had been associated with some punks, they call them boys, messing with them boys, they associate him with that his whole time. So when I came to the facility and he befriended me, they was like, "You sure you want to hang out with him? Because he messed with them boys." Ain't got to do with me. I ain't messing with no boys.
Right.
He was looking for somebody that he could talk to, but he watching me and he seen my walk and he came to me and this was the most humbling thing that I've ever went through. This man came to me and said he wanted to be my disciple. He wanted me to teach him the Bible. He wanted to follow me because he was paying attention to my walk. And so I'm like, "Be my disciple? I ain't Jesus, what you mean? I ain't, you know what I mean?" He just needed somebody to show him the way. He was trying to get out of this being associated with them boys. But I was in jeopardy of having a reputation because I'm hanging out with him and he hanging with them, you know what I mean? So, but I didn't care about, I'm only here for a short time, so by the time y'all really know who I am, I'll be gone. So, I walked with this young brother, talked with him, prayed together, taught him the scriptures, broke it down, and this is what God really started dealing with me on being a minister and being able to teach the word, because I have a really good teaching spirit, right? And so, I'm going to make this story short because it's really long. After about 8-9 months of him following me around the prison and like being my disciple, we had like maybe 10 other people that was in our group and everything. He came to me and said he wanted to be saved. Now, he was trying to get out of prison early. They had a drug charge and they were doing 65% of the time. They were trying to pass that new law. They passed the law, he would have only had 2 years left. But without the law, he'd have to do still like 6 years, something like that. So, we get to the end of my time, and he said he wanted to be saved. So I walked him through the prayer of salvation. And I prayed with him. And he was crying because he was really grateful. Fast forward, he got approved for the 65%. he got saved, he was getting ready to go home. Within 8 months, he was ready to go home. He had already been there 10 plus years. I had only been there 2 years, so I'm getting ready to go. I left prison, and I'm still confused about, is this the only reason why I went to prison? For that one?
Wow.
2 months later, I get a letter from one of the other boys that was in the group. Did you hear the news? What news? The guy named Chris. He passed away in the yard, on the weight yard. He was ready to go home in 8 months. He done passed away. So he never made it out of prison. He died.
Wow.
That ain't even the tip of the iceberg. His mama called me. I started crying like a baby. I said, me and that guy, His mama said, I want to take this time to say thank you. My son has been talking about you for the last 2 years, and she said that because of you, he got saved before he died. I want to thank you for being the vessel. And then at that exact moment, I realized that I was on assignment. That one soul that was in prison all them years before he met me, he'd been doing all this other stuff, met me in prison when I was there, and he got saved, got approved to go home early, passed away, but he was saved when he died. I broke down and started crying, and I was just like, so people say, you better gonna come back, you gonna be back, you gonna come back. I ain't coming back on this side. I might come back on the other side, but I ain't come back on this side. But if God had to rewind the tape to say, you got 2 choices. Go back down this road again, or get all the riches of the world and do what you gotta do. Which one would you choose? Give me the prison for 500, because I know the impact of that one soul. I would have never met that young man if I hadn't been in that place. He probably would have lived his whole rest of his time in prison. He probably would have never got saved because they got people that just perpetrating. And he didn't know who to listen to. So he was confused hanging out with them boys. But when he met Daniel LionsDen Evans at the time, I was just going by Daniel Evans. But when he came and said, I want to be one of your disciples, that was humbling for me. I'm like, nobody ain't gave me this kind of respect on the streets to come and say, I want to follow you. And so that's when I realized this life is not our own.
It's not.
We live our lives to help other people. The Bible says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of our testimony. So having that testimony is going to help save somebody. So you continue doing the work that you're doing until the day God calls you home. Because it's that one person. If this magazine can reach one person, if this book don't break down, break through.
Actually, it's a story behind that. Somebody had a mindset of committing suicide, and she got a hold of my book, and it altered her mindset.
See, that right there is worth everything you have been through. It's worth it to me. I tell my story without shame because it shaped who I am right now. And I'm not ashamed of who I am now. I just been through some things. But if my story can help save one person's life, I'll do this until the day I die. I'll do this for free if I know that it can help save somebody.
But servanthood is the highest calling. Out of all these callings, servanthood is the highest calling.
Yep, everybody can't do it. Everybody can't serve with the right spirit, with the right capacity. Some people get frustrated and some people just get out for themselves. But when you can be a servant, the Bible says that those that are last shall be first. Those that are first shall be last. So, to the audience right now, if you're in a desolate place and you feel like God has forgotten about you. Trust me, he knows exactly where you are. If you're in a desolate place, pay attention to your surroundings because there are things that he needs you to pick out. It might be Easter egg that he needs you to find and get your stuff together. But he knows where you are. The Bible says his eyes are on the sparrow, so I know he watches over me. The birds that fly around, they don't have to worry about being fed. I was walking down the sidewalk one day and saw a whole power line full of birds. And the old saying is the early bird gets the worm. I looked down below the birds, it was sidewalk, it was about 100 worms on top of the ground just waiting for those birds. So it's not that the early bird gets the worm, but every bird gets a worm. Because only what you do for Christ is going to last. So if you're walking down a path and you feel like you're all alone, remember this. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadows of death. Not death, but death's shadows. The shadow is not a threat. The death is a threat. Yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because I'm not worried about a shadow. What is fear? False evidence appearing real. It's an illusion. The devil is fooling you into giving up. And I've said it on a couple of occasions, the devil is doing his job. He don't need no help. He is the only one other than God that's doing his job. You get people out here commit suicide. You get people to give up on their situation. And if he can get you to quit, he don't want. He know he defeated already. He want to take as many people as he out on his way out. So that 100 days you got left, if you got 100 days of life, do what the devil do. Get everybody involved and impact somebody's life. And be blessed as you continue on your journey. Thank y'all for joining us in this episode of Inside the Den. And as always, interruption, comment, and end the show. This is your boy Daniel LionsDen Evans, and you heard it from the Den.
Brothers need to stick together. As a team, we can make it wherever. Just tell me how you feel.
Yeah.
Just tell me if it's real.
Hey.